This week, Democratic leadership announced a new goal to pass infrastructure and spending packages by the end of the month. And this comes after Democrats delayed a House vote on a bipartisan infrastructure plan in the hopes of tying it to a larger economic package.
Okay. Did you get all that? Okay, let's bring in someone who can help us understand what in the world is going on in Washington. New York Congressman Tom Reed. Congressman, thank you for being here. I want to start with what we've been hearing so much about, the Christmas crisis that's coming because of the bottlenecks and the issues with the supply chain. President Biden addressed it, hoping to keep at least a couple of ports open longer. But other than that, is there much that government can do, Congress can even do, to improve the bottleneck? Or is this just really pretty much a private sector issue they're going to have to handle?
You know, obviously we can do our part at the government to encourage the opening of the supply chain, but this is primarily a private sector area, and this is an issue bigger than COVID. This was something we saw happening or coming into focus prior to COVID, and COVID was like the gasoline on the fire that ignited this. And our supply chain command and control must be put back under American control, else we're going to have more of these in the future.
Congressman Reed, you helped create the Problem Solvers Caucus there on the Hill. You were the co-chair, you are a current member, and there are a lot of problems to solve. How are you going to find a bipartisan way to pass these bills that have been hanging in the balance and certainly have a huge impact on this country if they don't pass?
Well, I'll tell you, the $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill that got 19 Senate Republicans to join with Democrats in the U.S. Senate is a start. And that's why we're encouraging and continuing to put pressure on leadership in the House to say, just put a vote up on that bill. It will pass. It will get signed into law. This hostage taking by the extremes of Washington, D.C. has to come to an end. And that's why we founded the Problem Solvers Caucus, to say we're proud Republicans, we're proud Democrats, but at the end of the day, we work for the American people, and the $1.2 trillion deal is something we need to get done for them.
Well, Congressman Reed, your Problem Solvers Caucus is made up of an even split. It's about 60, but even split between Democrats and Republicans. How can your caucus solve the problem? Because how many of your Republicans in that Problem Solvers Caucus are willing to vote for this infrastructure bill?
You know, I would tell you, we had at least 15 Republicans that were ready to stand up and vote for this package when it was going to come to the floor. And then the extremes on the left with the Squad and others said they won't vote for it unless they get everything they want out of the $3.5 trillion deal. And that hostage taking is not the way to legislate. Legislation is developed best by working together, listening to each other, find the compromise. We did on the $1.2 trillion deal. Take the win and move forward with the debate on the other issues on a longer-term basis. To me, that's common sense. That's how I live. And I will tell you, inside D.C. Beltway has to learn the lessons of that practical type of outlook, because the problems have to be fixed. They're not getting better with this gridlock.
Yeah, no, and speaking to that, Congressman, we know that the House passed a vote to raise the debt limit, but just basically kicking the can down the road until December. You're still going to have to deal with it then to avoid a default. So what does that look like? How do you get to a place where that can actually pass with long-term impact?
The solution is you have to put everything onto the table. We only, essentially 1/3 out of about our $4 trillion budget is something we approve every year. 2/3 of our spending isn't even reviewed by Congress. It's on autopilot. You need to put all of this together and come up with solutions that are going to save Medicare, that are going to reform Social Security so that it's there for generations, deal with Medicaid and health care costs, and also get all the other items that are sacred cows like defense spending, non-defense spending into the room and get our books balanced. Because if we continue to spend and have deficits like this, $1 trillion a year, it is not sustainable, and it's going to come crashing down, and that's when our country is at greatest risk.
Congressman, there was a man who was charged with terroristic threatening for making threats against you, actually a member of Congress. We had the U.S. Capitol, I believe the police chief was talking about the record number of threats that have come in this year towards members of Congress. Can I ask, has that toned down any at all? Are threats to you and your members of Congress, your fellow members, still coming?
They are, and that threat wasn't directly at me. It actually had a dead rat was left at my footstep or at my doorstep. My wife found, and it was a threat against my son and my daughter with a note, essentially a death threat. That type of attack is unacceptable. Now, thank God, law enforcement did their job and they arrested the individual, and we're going through that process as we speak. But those threats, because extremism in America is on the rise, both on the left and on the right. And I will tell you, extremism is creating this environment where it's okay to engage in this type of rhetoric. I saw my friend Kirsten Sinema, who I know very well, served with her in the House. She's followed into a bathroom where she is being essentially harassed by people who think they are doing a good thing. That is not acceptable, and that is going to drive people away from public service. And at a time when we need good leaders stepping forward, we need to be standing up to that extremism and standing up to this type of attack mentality. And also, you're talking about kids. You're talking about my kids. How is that now acceptable to put on the table to attack? So I just tell you, it's wrong, and we need to, as a country, say it's unacceptable to have that done.
Well, it was shocking to hear those numbers reported to us, but also shocking to hear the details as you described them. But I think everyone can agree we need to bring things down, way, way down. Congressman Reed, we appreciate your time. We're going to follow up with you down the road, okay?
Always love to. Thank you so much.
Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Lots of great stuff here. So go on, click the subscribe button right over here to get more of awesome videos and content from GMA every day, anytime. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the morning on GMA.